My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. I recently came across an especially insightful article from 2007, which will serve as our guide for this conversation with Jesus. It is fascinating to watch your various ways of teaching Jesus. Sometimes you are very direct. Then there are the parables, which often need an explanation. But sometimes you teach through a lived experience. Such is the case of the moment when you walked on water. The apostles were exhilarated after helping you feed the 5,000 with those 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then you told them that you needed to speak with your Father God. And so you sent them to the other side of the lake while you remained behind. How easy it is to imagine that glimmer in your eyes as you watched the apostles begin their crossing of the lake. After all, you knew that you were soon to give them a lesson they would never forget. Sure enough, a storm came up out of nowhere in the middle of the night, when the apostles found themselves in the middle of the lake. Those experienced fishermen knew they were in big trouble. If only you had come with them hours earlier, they would have felt totally safe. But now they were on their own. They were about to learn a truly important lesson, that the wind and the waves, difficulties, are a necessary part of life, the life that we must sanctify, knowing that Christ, that you, Lord, are always close beside us. Lord, that night you took a different approach. On another occasion, you had been in the boat during a storm, and you simply told the wind and the waves to stop. Why this new approach? You wanted them to learn that important lesson, that being a soul of faith does not spare us difficulties. Rather, it allows us to keep our eyes fastened on you, learning how to grow through those difficulties. Suddenly the apostles saw a figure coming toward them, walking on the water. Since it was dark, it was not easy to see who it was. But on the other hand, let's face it, there were not many possible candidates. They were already frightened, so their reaction was to cry out in fear. You said to them, "Take heart, it is I. Have no fear." Then Peter, with that marvelous spontaneity and faith of his, said, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." You said, Jesus, "Come." And so Peter put one leg over the side and then another and started walking towards you. During those initial moments, the only thing on his mind was to reach you, and he was ready to do anything to achieve that goal. Obviously, as he walked on the water, Peter could feel the wind and waves more strongly than the others. This is the risky situation we Christians find ourselves in. We too are trying to journey towards the Lord in circumstances that are mostly beyond our control. So there is nothing strange about our realizing that sometimes we are not on solid ground and we are going through turmoil. That is the time to realize once again that we live by faith, not a faith that calms the storms and removes the danger of walking on the waves, but rather a faith that gives us light amid the turmoil and explains the violence of the waves. Without faith, we are overwhelmed and drown in life's difficulties. But with faith, we do not escape setbacks, but we have more resources to cope with them. And we know that God can make those difficulties turn out in our favor. Going back to this remarkable scene of Peter beginning his walk on the water. He had already taken several steps. Suddenly he took his eyes off you and focused on the waves beneath his feet. He became afraid. And beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." You, Lord, immediately reached out your hand and caught him, saying to him, "O man of little faith, why did you doubt?" Jesus, if you could say that to this intrepid disciple of yours, what would you say to me? Were you expecting Peter to walk on the water quite calmly, as though walking on solid ground on a peaceful sunny day? Do your words mean that we have to be untouched and unmoved by difficult situations? No, they do not. The goal of our struggle to live by faith is not to make us feel secure in the face of difficulties. It does not mean that we should not be affected by things, that important things should not matter to us, or that difficult things should not worry us. Rather, we need to never forget that God never leaves us. And we have to strive to make use of these difficult situations to draw ever closer to Him. So the question arises, where did Peter's lack of faith lie? Perhaps it was not so much in his sense of insecurity as it was in doubting you, Jesus. Up until that moment when he began to sink, his eyes had been on you. Obviously, Peter felt insecure. But he did not worry too much about it, because what was crucial, what took up all his attention, was walking towards you. But suddenly he focused instead on his own insecurity, and he lost sight of you. That's when things began to unravel. That insecurity, which was natural and reasonable enough, degenerated into fear. Fear can grip our heart and make things that initially existed only in our imagination into real problems. Some things happen to us precisely because we fear they will happen. The fear we will have a temptation, the fear of becoming nervous, the fear that people will lose their good opinion of us. As one person put it in fractured English, most of the stuff people worry about ain't never going to happen anyway. So how should we struggle here? By trying to accept that very insecurity, because only then can we prevent it from becoming the focus of our attention. It should not matter to us how we feel while we are doing it. Then we will be able to walk towards Jesus through the wind and the waves without being frightened by the difficulties. After all, insecurity is part of the human condition, since we do not have perfect mastery even over ourselves. We cannot remove all insecurity from our lives. We should strive to exclude fear, but not necessarily insecurity or uncertainty. Being a soul of faith means that insecurity does not degenerate into fear. It means accepting the insecurity without trying to eliminate it entirely, which we will never be able to do. The insecurity we may experience because of our limited abilities is a chance to foster our abandonment in God. We may be worried, doubtful, nervous, embarrassed, afraid of looking bad, eminently aware of our limitations. But we accept these feelings, these emotions, without giving them undue importance, not allowing those emotions to dominate our outlook and paralyze us. In this way, we will have learned to walk towards Christ, towards you, Jesus, amid the waves. Saint Josemaria summarizes this crucial lesson in point 900 of the Way. Have you never seen the mothers of this earth with their arms outstretched, following their little ones, when without anyone's help, those children venture to take their first shaky steps? You are not alone. Mary is beside you. With Our Lady, we learn to trust in God. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.